Hi, everybody. Welcome to Seeking a Balance, Sustainability, and Mindfulness in Life and Business. I'm glad you're here. This will be a fun topic, something that I'm really passionate about and love. As you know, if you're interested in this, if you're here, sustainability and mindfulness have become sort of the buzzwords of the 2020s. But what we're going to talk about today is how do we actually make these things a reality in our lives, especially in our businesses, our brands, the services we offer, and how do we strike a balance and make sure that we're actually pulling through on all this and not just talking about it and making it more than just rhetoric. So my name is Derek Sabori, and let's see if I can. There we go. I'm Derek Sabori, and I want to talk to you today, though, about making this a reality in your personal and professional endeavors. I'm here today to give you some tips, how you can do this, how you can make this a reality. I've been able to build a career around these concepts, and I've been able to help individuals and brands on their journeys to do this very thing. So what I want to do today is share some insights and some tips, give you some advice, and share a couple anecdotes on the matter. But I guess first, what qualifies me to be here? What qualifies me to be the person talking on these topics? Well, I'm a sustainability teacher, a consultant, an entrepreneur, and coach. And that's what I do for a living. I've been able to kind of craft my career to basically revolve around sustainability, mostly in the apparel industry. But I teach at a college. I've developed courses and curriculum, and I help individuals on their journey. Some people want to transition into sustainability careers. They want to kind of light a fire or create a spark in their department or at their company or brand. And sometimes people just need help with, with sort of saying, hey, someday I want to be a sustainability officer or a head of sustainability somewhere, or start my own sustainable, conscious, purpose-driven, mission-led, certified B Corp brand, if you will. So that's what I get to do. It's a lucky job. But I want to start, though, before we get too far, just defining the terms that we're talking about today. Let's talk about sustainability and mindfulness. What are we all talking about? And one of the things I'll do, and if you've got any comments or questions too along the way, put them into the chat. I'll try to address them. I'll leave some room at the end for Q&A if anything here resonates with you and you want to talk about it. But what do we mean by sustainability? A lot of my students will start throwing things out, right? Conservation or eliminating waste or circularity or renewable, and all of those things are definitely great. But I think it's really important to kind of narrow on this idea, and this comes from the definition that came from the United Nations and the Our Common Future agenda in the 80s. But I like this one because it's this idea of us consciously meeting the needs of the present. That's us doing our business today, pulling our resources, utilizing resources wisely and efficiently, but without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs as well, right? And sustainability always, a lot of times when we think of sustainability, we think of environmental sustainability, but sustainability defined is really about balancing social, environmental, and economic initiatives and making sure that we are looking sort of at what we call that triple bottom line, right? People, planet, profit. And for me, I always think people come first because nobody's going to be looking out for the environment. Nobody's going to be taking care of the planet if their basic needs are not even met. If they don't have the common, the common goods that they need to survive, food, shelter, transportation, decent access to Wi-Fi and education, et cetera. If those needs are not met, they are definitely not worried about protecting ecosystems and biodiversity in rainforest somewhere else, which it's all tied together. It's all a collective effort. But for sure, we need to look at what we're doing now, how it will affect the future, and think of it in terms of social, environmental, and economic. And then when it comes to mindfulness, what do we mean by mindfulness? There was a great session earlier on today. I hope you got to do that because that was an opportunity for everybody to engage and participate in a little mindfulness and just sort of settling down, being in the moment. But I like this definition or description. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And I think that is easier said than done, of course, but it's something, though, that I think can actually be a reality, and I do think we can get there. And for me, it's really important. What I've learned in sort of my career is to not sort of do that just sort of, at my 10 a.m. Yoga session or my 7 a.m. yoga session or whatever it is, but no, to make that a complete part of what I do in my personal life, in my family life, and in my professional life. So I want to share kind of the story of that with you. But first, a little bit about me, because I think maybe it will resonate with you. But in addition to me being a sustainability teacher, consultant, an entrepreneur, coach, all those things that I told you about, I'm a husband. I'm a husband to my wife, Sibley. She's here in the photo. We're celebrating 22 years of marriage this year, which is amazing, and I'm proud of that. I'm a dad. I'm a dad to our 2 kids. My son Shaw is there. He's a skateboarder and a classic car collector and trader. And he really likes old Impalas, the lowrider kind. The 1963 Impalas are kind of what he dabbles in. And there's my daughter, Charlie. She's a killer drummer, a rock climber, soccer player, and our dog, Jetty, there. So all together, that's us. And I guess my point in showing that is that, there's a lot going on in my life as well. But I'm a surfer, I'm a yogi, I'm a deep breather and a meditator. So these are kind of my outlets to try to, find balance and pull it all together. And it was really important for me to try to, how can I streamline this and bring it all together so that life is all about all of these things together all the time. So a little bit about my backstory. It all started here at UCI. I came into the school as an engineering major. And what's funny is back in high school, I thought I wanted to be an architect. Somehow I ended up in the engineering school, quickly realized, actually probably not quick enough, about 2 years in, that engineering was just not for me. It wasn't a right fit. And I had to do a pivot even there, in those early college years. So what would you think you would switch to if you're leaving engineering, looking for something else? Well, I ended up in the art school. I ended up at the Claire Trevor Art Studio in the Studio Arts program. And that's where I was exposed to photography and filmmaking and arts and writing and installation art and performance art. And I loved it. It was really, really awesome. Once I graduated, though, I knew that I wasn't going to go on and get my MFA. I knew I wasn't going to do gallery exhibitions, and I wasn't going to curate museums and works. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I hit the road and traveled, went through Europe, did some backpacking, and came back and really just said, okay, so now what? And I got this really lucky opportunity to land a answer the phones for free gig at a really great company. And so this was sort of my first corporate job, because prior to that, I had been working in restaurants and bartending and making it happen. But answering the phones for free at this company, Volcom, which is in the surf, snow, skateboarding, action sports industry. They were just sort of a 5-year-old company at that time, really kind of taking over this surf industry by storm, because at the time, nobody was bringing all the board sports together and celebrating art and music and fashion all kind of in one. So I went from answering the phones to purchasing raw materials and managing design departments and heading up departments and doing planning and analysis. But eventually, I ended up being the vice president of global sustainability. And that's sort of like its own story and own road. But for me, that's where I left. And I ended up really dedicating my position along the way to just focusing on people, planet, profit, and helping to change the course, the culture, the supply chains, the story of that brand. And now what I do a lot is work with other brands in the same industry to try to do the same. And so it's been a really great opportunity. But I also went back, that career also at Volcom, that lasted 20 years. So that job, that opportunity of answering the phones for free led to a 20-year career there, which was great. But I went back for my MBA. So think of it this way. I went from wanting to be an architect to going to engineering school to switching to art to going into fashion and apparel to then going back for my MBA. But it was another opportunity to go back to UCI, get back on campus, and secure, put another a couple tools in my toolbox, if you will. But so I guess at this point, well, what about sustainability? Where did that come from? Well, I will give a nod to the one social ecology class that I had back there while I was at UCI. And that really opened my eyes to just this idea of, even then, just climate change and what was going on and how maybe the hamburger that I was eating back then, at lunch was, contributing maybe to deforestation, and just this idea of connectivity, and just putting things together and realizing that, whoa, I'm making an impact. And it really was kind of frustrating, because at that point I'm like, why am I not knowing about this? Why had I not learned about this kind of up until then? But it wasn't until many years later, kind of the early 2000s, when we really started talking about, switching things. And I started to meet new people who were doing great innovative work in sustainability, and turning me on to sustainable materials, organic cotton, recycled fibers, and using hemp, and changing processes. And this idea of eco fashion was just sort of happening. And it was really, really fascinating to me. And I really loved it. But at the time, we were just calling it kind of going green and being eco. And there was definitely, it was more about environmental sustainability than it was about social. So that's something I had to learn as well. And at that point, too, there was not a lot of mindfulness going on, but we definitely were doing things over there at the brand and in the industry because it just felt right. It just felt like it was the right thing to do. So it wasn't, though, around the 2006, because up to this point, like I said, I was really frustrated. By this point, I was 10 years into my career. I now had a master's degree under my belt, especially in business. But I really felt, even after watching this movie in the 2006 or so, we did this little lunch and learn, and we did a screening. And I felt like, wait, why do I not know about this? Why have none of my degrees taught me this? Why is the 10 years of education of business experience that I have not touched on this? And I really felt a little like frustrated. So I decided, I remember it very specifically in the break room watching this movie, that this is what I wanted to commit my career to doing. I decided that I was going to be focused on learning how to be a part of the solution more so than being a part of the problem. And again, easier said than done, but really this is what changed the path of my career, because from here on out, I went to my bosses who, and luckily I reported directly to the president, then eventually to the CEO, but I was able to say, this is what I think our company needs, and I want to be the one to help drive it. And it ended up happening, which was great. But it was through surfing, though, that I found mindfulness. And it was through mindfulness that I also came to realize that mindfulness was also in surfing, right? And so this was sort of my journey along the way. And I actually started yoga because of injuries that I was getting from other physical activities. And that yoga just hooked me, because it was this opportunity for me to be in this space of just quietness, stillness, but still, physical building strength, but really tuning in to me, my body, my breath, and then being able to go right back and apply that to my busy life. So that was all there. But my mindfulness practice, I'll give you a little example, though. And this is me kind of in the morning. This is what I do, though, every morning, though, now. So you've heard kind of about the sustainability part and that journey, and I can't get through it all in here in 20 minutes or so. But my mindfulness journey, though, came along. It continued to expand through my yoga practice. And through my yoga practice, I was turned on to a deep breathing practice called Wim Hof Method. And so this method that I showed you there, that's a bit of it. And it's, let's see, that's a weird one. But, it's something that I've done now every day. So what it is, it's a 30 to 45 or 50 minute walk in the morning that I do with my wife. So that's our opportunity for mindfulness. And then it's followed by this deep breathing ritual that I do. It takes another 20 minutes or so. It includes meditation in there as well. And then I always follow it with a cold shower. So I start my day off with a cold shower wherever I am. And I have had this routine now for almost 4 years now. I haven't missed a day. And it's kind of a running joke in the family, because multiple countries, high altitudes, very, very cold showers. It's just what I do. It's part of my thing. But this is what I'm doing to infuse and make sure that I'm keeping mindfulness as a part of my daily practice. So all of that to say that I have 3 projects right now that I'll share with you, because I guess I'm just hoping to build all this up and let you know that the life gets busy, but we can ingrain it all. So I run a consulting company that helps with individuals and brands to start, strengthen, scale their sustainability program, to learn more what they can do, primarily focused on education. To me, it's so important to empower those. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity and there's a knowledge gap from those like me who were vice presidents of global sustainability to those that are on the front lines of retail and communicating and trying to sell these initiatives that we're creating. So I really try to educate and inspire and motivate through workshops. I've developed an online course, a 24 hours worth of online lectures talking about the triple bottom line, sustainability, et cetera, really making sure that people have a good understanding of the foundations, the history of it, et cetera. So I developed that. I've also launched a brand. I'm the co-founder of this brand, Cosm. And this is a brand that was developed to be, it was designed for yoga, made for mindfulness, but we say it's made for yoga, good for everything else. This was my opportunity to apply all of that sustainability work that I'd done, take that playbook and apply it in the real world. So only sustainable fibers, only more preferred fibers, traceable. We have an open book business model. So you could go in, shop, and see exactly where everything was made, who made it, how it was made, how much it cost us to make it, how much we're charging you, nothing to hide. It's a certified B Corp, which means we're committed to in our bylaws and registered that way to be, focused primarily on that triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. So that endeavor is up and running, and it's really exciting, and I run that as well. But I'm also a college instructor. I teach a sustainable fashion course. It's a 3-semester program at Orange Coast College, all helping young students and professionals who come in, again, learn more about how to apply sustainability into their lives, in their career, and in their businesses. So all of these things, of course, eventually kind of tie together, though, to sustainability and mindfulness. So I've been able to craft this all so that whatever I'm working on is kind of, steered towards and geared towards and has this thread of always focused on sustainability. So I also represent for other companies and solutions, sustainable fibers and materials that I work for, commercial solar, but all of these initiatives that roll up under my consulting business have to have a sustainability mix. And then the brand Cosm is where we're always pushing mindfulness, and it's meant to be just a brand that is different and focused on, sustainability, better for the environment, better for people. Our tagline is made fair with care, fair to people, fair to the planet. So if if this is, as you can see, like I said, it's all things that we're all committed to. And in my personal life as well, of course, I've been plant-based for many, many years, solar panels on our house and electric cars and hybrids, and always this concept of voting with your dollar is really important as well. So it's sort of always a part of my talks, of how we walk. But of course, we're not perfect for sure. And I never claim to be. It's a journey. And that's why the long road is here, because all of what we are trying to do is definitely, I think you can't ever fully get there to that perfect sustainability or mindfulness approach. And we're always going to be working on it. But I've got some advice here. If you like this idea, these are things that you want to infuse into your life. These are what I've put together to be tips for you, sort of hacks of how to do it. I call it the 6P roadmap to sustainability and mindfulness. And so think of it in terms of this way too. So I showed you a little bit of surfing. I showed you a little bit of yoga. For me, I always think in terms of those two things, of how life works, of how business works. They're such powerful tools to get us through a lot of the ups and downs that come in our personal and professional lives. So the first P that I'll offer, and I see a question over here too, to what led you into this industry? How has the pandemic changed your principles and advice to business leaders? That's a good one, Evan. So I'm going to jump on that, and I want to make sure I can get over to some of these questions. Somebody else just threw in another one as well, so we'll get there. But first, let me give you your the 6 Ps. So the first one is, it's promise. Make a promise to yourself, also known as a commitment, right? So if we are going to commit to having a sustainability program in our business, then we do it. We do it from the top down. CEOs, executives, leaders, we need you from the top saying, this is a commitment. I'm dedicating resources. We're making promises, and we're going to start this journey, and we will get there. But in yoga or mindfulness, if you're deciding to start meditating, if you're deciding to start yoga, if you're deciding to start surfing, then you've got to say, I'm in it. Let's do it. Where do I start? But I'm going to be committed in making sure that I do this. The second one is to participate. You've got to get out there. We have to network. We have to learn. We have to align ourselves with other, similar and like-minded people who are sharing these same values. So get out there and be a part of it. And if that's surfing, that means get out there and go surfing on the weekends. If that's for yoga, then that means getting a mat and going to class or finding some online courses and doing it. And you do it every day. And if it's meditation, then you carve out a day. For me, it's in the mornings or a time of the day where it's like, this is my time to do this, but you're participating. And then it's practice. It's repetition. So in yoga, for example, that's what we refer to our practice as. We call it yoga. It's called our practice because we also know we never get there. We're always striving. We're always trying to get better. And for me, I've been a surfer for, 30, 40 years now at this point. And I'll never reach where I ultimately want to be. It's just this ongoing journey. But we have to practice every day and practice every day repetitively in a rhythm and make it a part of our program. Persistence. We've got it. There's no going back. So once we make the commitment in our companies to have a sustainability program, to have a focus on social commitments and environmental commitments, whether it's a 3, a 5, a 10-year goal, we have to strive for those goals and eventually get there, know that we will get there, but also know that we'll never reach again, just like in our yoga practice, just like in surfing. The goal is not to achieve that certain point. The goal is always to push through that and continue to get better and better and always show progress. So that's the next P. That's the fifth one. Look for small victories, right? And to know, one of my things that I showed that I remember specifically in my yoga journey was trying a posture called side crow. And for those of you that do yoga, I remember I reached over there early in my yoga days. I went to do it and I just felt like this is an impossible thing to do. My body won't let me do this. But I practiced over and over. I was persistent. I kept it up. I was relentless. And eventually, one of those nights I went to do it, side crow came. That was my progress. That was my victory. And that was also a breakthrough for the continued journey. And so for the last 5 or 6 years, yoga now is just a part of my life because it has become harder, but also easier, if that makes sense. The breathing, the cold showers, it's tuning in. It's constantly keeping, it's like your guitar, right? If you play music, you've got to keep your guitar tuned up and got to keep the strings fresh and get it all ready so that when you go to play it, it's ready to go and ready to really play there for you. Then finally, and I've been saying that we can't necessarily perfect it, but I do think this idea of fine tuning and hopefully trying to perfect what we're doing, and just there's always subtle adjustments we can make. And in yoga and in surfing, you saw those shots, subtle foot adjustments, subtle balance adjustments, subtle, a lean, a tuck, or whatever. And that's why I love yoga, because to me, it's like, man, this is just the same as life. Once it starts getting really hard and our body kind of wants to give up, we have to go into a mindset where it's like, it's okay. And we have to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, or all through the nose, inhale, exhale. But it's about just focusing then on the breath, letting that moment be there and being in the middle of it and being okay with it and knowing that it will pass and that we will get through it. The burning will stop. But if we focus on our breath, it takes our mind away from the burning. So we're always making little adjustments. And sometimes your yoga instructor will come and say, nope, I need your hips like this. I need your shoulders like this. This is this fine tuning to try to get it to the place where it's like, oh, that's more effective. But we don't get that without having that progress, persistence, practice, participation. And none of it starts without that first earliest promise that we make to ourselves, that commitment. So those are the P's that I've got for you. That's the 6P roadmap to sustainability and mindfulness. But all of it is just about showing up and doing it and just learning to be in the moment and be okay with it. And I tried to show you all those things that I've got going on in my life, because sometimes I hit a wall and just go, what am I doing? I'm trying to build multiple companies, multiple businesses, and then helping other companies and doing consultation. And it's like, wow, there's so much going on. But my job is just to try to breathe through it, be present, and enjoy it. So that's what I've got for you. I'm going to jump over and look at a couple of these questions. If you've got a couple questions in the chat here, because they've popped up. Evan what led you to this industry? I actually didn't know. I just kind of found out that I wanted to be a part. Once I got that phone opportunity there at Volcom, I loved the people. I loved the energy. And it was an opportunity that I saw. It was surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding, music, art, all the things that I love. And it was an opportunity for me to say, wait, I can work in this and do this. So that was really cool for me to do. And I just said, hey, this is where I want to be. But I've never really been stuck to any one thing. And it's just sort of evolved from there. The pandemic, though, was the thing that helped me pivot to making an online course for students. I knew that I had time now to make something new. Consultation was on the down. And so I had to pivot, take my breath. And actually, through meditation, I had my moment. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I know what I need to go do. Spend months building a course, getting out there and deliver it to individuals and students. So I'm really proud of that course. Gabriel said, can you provide info for your clothing company? It's called Cosm. It's called The Cosm. And one of the last slides I've got, I'll see if I can get it back up here, but there's all my tags and handles are on there. But check out The Cosm, The Underswell. Those are both of my sites. You're saying, I struggle buying new clothes because of guilt that there may be plastics, non-renewable materials in what I buy. Gabriel, you're right. And one of the best things we can do for sustainability is for what we do buy, wear it longer, buy durable, buy quality, get the most use out of it, extend the use of those materials, kind of amortize your costs there and make sure that we get as much utilization out of those products. Buy secondhand where you can, repair what you own. And then when you do buy new, I really urge you to look for brands like the one I've built at Cosm, or brands like Outer Known, or brands that are really, really set with good intentions on really big commitments like Patagonia, who are committed to doing business differently. But also some of the mainstream brands, some of the biggest ones in the world, are doing some amazing, really forward-thinking sustainability work. Even H&M, Nike, Adidas, Levi's, science-based targets, focusing on transparent supply chains. I was just looking at the New Balance website. They ranked high for their traceability and transparency and letting you know where their goods are made. So this is definitely a trend that more and more brands are doing because customers like you, consumers, are asking for it. They're looking for it. And they're expecting more from the brands that they buy from. So that would be my recommendation. And I also would say, hey, we can't beat ourselves up because it's never going to be perfect, right? And I think none of us can be perfect. And I know people get really hung up on, well, what about the bad packaging, or what about the transportation that came with it? I would urge you to really try to give credit to brands that are doing good things, and realize that some of the biggest impacts come from the furthest back parts of our supply chain. So if brands are focusing on organic cotton or recycled fibers, or they're using agricultural waste, then that is really helping to move the needle. And that might be better off than where it was shipped or where it came from. But also we have to really also consider, how are the people treated along the way? Because this is also the mindfulness part as well, right? If we're really truly being mindful and trying to find peace in our own lives and find balance, well, we need to extend that to the other people, though, that are in the products that are helping to get the products made that we appreciate so much. So that means recognizing human rights and making sure that people are in good, safe, healthy work environments, and making sure that they are paid fair wages, and that they are having access to those basic needs that we talked about early on, because sustainability is first and foremost, I think, about people and then planet, and then balancing your business with it. So what kind of ranking tools can we use to assess brands? That's a good question, because it's really hard for us consumers. And I've just got a few seconds here left. There's one called Good on You that is good. But I would also, there's an organization called Corporate Knights. They do corporate rankings. Start looking for like ESG rankings is another good thing. The Fashion Revolution Transparency Index, that is one of my favorite for really assessing how good brands are doing and how traceable their supply chains are and how open and honest they are being with those. So hopefully that helped. Check out any of my sites if you ever want to learn more. Thank you guys for attending. Stay mindful, stay sustainable. Alrighty. Take care.